This is a yeast cell. Yeast are single-celled eukaryotic microorganisms that belong to the fungi kingdom, but they're kind of retarded. You can have yeasts that infect pugs' faces, people's mouths, and even vaginas. But for the purposes of this video, the yeast in question is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is used to leaven bread and make alcohol. Yeast get their sexy on both asexually and sexually, typically reproducing asexually through a process known as budding. However, they're not buddies, they're twins. Sorry. Budding essentially creates a clone. While sexual reproduction happens less often, it's important because it helps introduce and maintain genetic variation. Yeast like simple sugars. They get the energy to reproduce by digesting sugars such as sucrose, glucose, fructose, among others such as maltose. When eating these sugars in an oxygen-free environment, they undergo anaerobic respiration, making alcohol and carbon dioxide. Occasionally, indigestible sugars such as lactose are added for taste, but that's a subject for another time. It's not all sunshine and rainbows though. The yeast is not alone. They face an outward threat. Other microorganisms such as bacteria exist. They can also feast on the sugars present in the brew. This is a concern when fermenting, since it can hinder the fermentation and result in an undesirable infected brew. However, it's not all doom and gloom. Using cider as an example, you'll see it's pretty straightforward to do it yourself. Alright, with cider you obviously need apple juice. The juice you start with needs to be relatively sterile, so store-bought juice is a good bet, because it's usually all pasteurized unless otherwise stated. If you're pressing apples for juice, sulfides are typically added beforehand to kill any other competitors. But who the fuck owns an apple press, especially if you're watching this video? Unless you've made it to Farmer Joe tier level, but in that case you probably wouldn't be watching this. Now, you need a vessel. This can be any sort of container, bucket, bottle, glass demijohn, even just the original bottle of juice you bought, which will cut out any sort of contaminants that might be added transferring the juice. To keep microbes out, the fermentation is done in a vessel that only lets the excess CO2 out and no microbes or air in. This can be done with an airlock. There are a few types of airlocks. You can go pretty ghetto DIY, a balloon with holes, to store-bought, like an S-shaped or 3-piece airlock. Now, add your choice of yeast, put the airlock on, and you're done. Now you just need to wait for the yeast to do its thing and flocculate out. You can tell the fermentation is near the end when the CO2 bubbles begin to subside. Once that's done, you probably have a fair bit of alcohol on your hands. Congratulations.